What's up, YouTube? I want to make a quick video to address the recent STI purchase because I received tons of messages regarding it and wanted to clear some things up as to why I bought an STI and traded in the WRX. So let's get going. So as you guys can see from the title, I want to address why I sold my WRX and upgraded to the STI. I got the WRX, it was a 2019, I got it back in May of 2020. It was used by like 1 year. It had roughly 3,000 miles. It was like the perfect WRX, honestly. If you were looking for a WRX in that time period, this one was the one you were looking for. It was World Rally Blue. It had the sport package, so it came with upgraded wheels, came with the STI shifter, STI shift knob, and the STI shifter package, and it came with thousands and thousands of dollars in upgraded accessories, and it came with some really nice winter tires and wheels. So it was really spec'd out. I couldn't find any flaws with it. I mean, it was, I think the sticker was about $34 and got a crazy deal on it because it was during the time when the market was being hurt by COVID. From the get-go, the WRX was the first manual car I'd ever driven and the first sports car I'd ever owned. So it was a little bit, it wasn't a hard car to learn manual on. Honestly, it was super easy. The clutch engagement was really quick. I like the stiffness of the pedal. It really was not a hard car to learn stick on. Some people complain about it, but I honestly did not have an issue with it. I'd like to say it was a couple months into it that I really started to notice some issues with the car. Obviously I had gotten better with manual, so the rev hang was really getting on my nerve. The rev hang was just an abomination. I hated it. It made me almost like dislike driving that car. I really never enjoyed driving that car. I like the quick turbo response, but honestly, it was just too quick. I was always in boost. Like on this car, I'll rev it out to 3,000 in shift, and then by then I'd already be in boost because the WRX spools at 2,200. So it just made shifting the car like super lurchy because it was always in boost. The gas mileage was not even relevant because the car got like 30 miles per gallon. Even if I was just like, if I was driving like this, I'd get like 30 miles per gallon, which is insane. I kind of missed that because this car will get 17 miles per gallon, which is not bad at all. I mean, it's an EJ, what do you expect? But the rev hang was just a problem. I couldn't stand it anymore. That was one of the reasons why I upgraded to the STI. The next thing was that the car came, I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, it was in an accident previously because it had this really big issue with the rear passenger side door. It's hard to explain without like actually showing photos, but it was towards the bottom of the actual like, curve of the door. It was like bulging out. I mean, if you were looking at this from a distance, it'd be pretty hard to notice the fitment issues, but if you're looking from a distance, you'd easily notice the color match issue. It looks like it was in an accident and they tried to repaint it, but then they messed up the clear coat. So there was really bad orange peel on the door. It was almost like a matte finish. I'm not sure how I didn't notice it when I was looking at the car initially to purchase it, but I think I was just so excited that I almost overlooked it, and the deal was insane that I overlooked it, which is, in the short term it was a bummer, but long term it worked out in the end, so I'm not worried about it. So I moved on, no regrets. But that door just really got to be bugging me. It was the wrong color, and it was like a matte finish. I like never took any photos of the car with that door showing because it was just such an eyesore. If you guys go to my Instagram, my old photos, you could probably find photos of it because that's when I didn't know about the issue. I was just probably worrying about other stuff. I'm not sure why it took me so long to figure it out that the issue had arisen. I wanted to get it repainted, but by that time I was already debating selling the car. So the rev hangs was one of the reasons why I sold the car. That door issue, and then mainly, honestly, just the performance. Like, I want to have a reliable car at power, and I just figured that the EJ, I'm gonna put miles on a V8 WRX or STI regardless. So I figured the motor is gonna blow up eventually because I'll want to make power, because stock power is plenty of fun, but it gets boring. So if I want to make like 400, 500 horsepower to the wheels, then I'm gonna need to rebuild or replace a motor. And at that point I was thinking, why would I ever get a WRX if the motor is gonna blow up eventually, and when I want to make 400, 500 wheel horsepower reliably, I would have to rebuild the motor and rebuild the transmission and get better brakes, because obviously at 500 wheel the WRX brakes could not keep up at all, and at 500 wheel, even at 400 wheel, I would not feel safe with those WRX brakes. These STI Brembos are amazing. I obviously want to do some upgraded stuff. I have the master cylinder brace, I have new lines, and I have new rotors. That was also one of the huge reasons I hated the WRX. The transmission is utterly garbage. I don't know who in Subaru thought that was a good idea, but the WRX transmission is quite literally the worst transmission I've ever felt in my life. I don't know why they let that happen for as many years as they did, as like 7 years. I don't know why that ever happened for 7 years, but it was literally, that transmission is utter garbage. Yes, of course you can do upgraded bushings, and you can, I think Cobb sells a drivetrain package, and you can get an upgraded feel for that car, but regardless, you're still gonna have issues, because it's literally like shifting. I think the best analogy I've heard is it's like shifting a stick in a box of rocks. It never wanted to go in first gear regardless. Second gear is even worse. So if you're trying to like launch, or not necessarily launch, but trying to rev out first gear, it'd be impossible, because you'd be revving out first gear, you'd clutch in and go to second, and you'd have to literally slam the shifter into second, because it just did not ever want to go into second. So just the performance aspects of the WRX, it was definitely a daily driver. It's not a race car. That's honestly, after I've learned from driving both cars for a decent amount of time, the WRX is honestly just a fancy daily driver. The WRX is a sporty car, and the STI is a sports car, because I mean the steering, like, I could go on for days and days about the biggest differences, which I probably should do. Well, I guess that's what this video is. So I mean, I had never driven an STI. Well, that's not true. I had never driven an STI for a lengthy amount of time. I driven my friend's 500 wheel FP Black STI, which honestly, if you want my personal opinion, I don't think an FP Black just belongs on a car pushing 500 wheel, because the spool is just honestly way too long for me. That's why I think I'm gonna stick with a Zona Rotor Red, because it's ball bearing and it should easily handle 500 wheel for what I want to do. I'm getting lost. Let me figure out where I'm going, but Wisconsin's got some nice back roads and Illinois does not. So that's why we're up here. Like, from the get-go, the steering is just so much better. The hydraulic feel, it's super heavy, which I really like. It's not electronic steering like the WRX, which is, I mean, I was honestly like mind blown when I first started driving this car home on the day I got it, because it felt super heavy. I mean, now I'm probably desensitized to it, but it just felt super heavy that first week. Now I mean, I obviously like the feel. You're a lot more connected, you get more road feel. Obviously with these roads that are extremely bumpy, I get a lot of road feel, but the steering is so much better. But this driving feel, like, it reminds me. So I've been driving for an hour and 7 minutes. So if I was doing that in the WRX, my back would be in pain, because the seats were so bad. There was no back support. This car's just so much better. I love the Limited. The Recaros I have are like my favorite seats right now. I obviously want to get nicer track seats, because I would like to get a lot of seat time in this car this year. There's a event coming up pretty soon, but I don't know if I can get rid of these Recaros, because they're so comfortable. But honestly, there's a lot of reasons why I made the upgrade, and a lot of them are supported by the driving experience after getting the car. I never test drove the car. I mean, I drove it around the dealership like the night before I guess I signed everything over and whatever. But I mean, I couldn't test anything. I mean, I obviously drove a built one. That's a very bad comparison because built motor, I think IG stage 3, I had a built transmission. I really like this transmission how it is. I don't think I'll get a short shifter just because I think this is plenty short and I don't want to mess up the experience. But honestly, there's just so many reasons why I got the upgrade, and if someone was to ask me, hey, should I trade my WRX into an STI? My answer is obviously gonna be yes. I'm gonna be back behind the camera, and for anyone who ever asked me this question of why did I upgrade, this video should answer it all. This is all, then again, this is all my personal situation. Obviously, the WRX is an amazing car. It just needs a tune and upgraded transmission components, so like bushings, a shift stop. But the car just wasn't right for me and my goals, so I figured in the long run it'll be cheaper to make the upgrade. And now that I have, don't regret it one bit. I was kind of questioning it when I was driving home. This is the exact same route I take getting to the dealership. We literally drove past the dealership that I picked it up from. But when I was driving it home, I was kind of regretting it, or I wasn't necessarily regretting it, but I was kind of confused what all the hype is about. But after I drove it for like a week, I was totally sold. If you guys have any questions, any questions on the upgrade or my thought process, always leave them in the comments. I always respond to comments. It's one of the more enjoyable things to do, to interact with you guys, to support my supporters and people who make all this possible. Make sure to like and subscribe to see all the future videos, and I hope you guys have a good one.